Hello everybody, it's Tuesday. How are you doing? So welcome back, lesson 2 of the week. I hope you're getting on okay. Thank you for those people who've been in contact asking questions, really appreciate that, and it's good to hear from you. So just a quick reminder about your homework. Some of you I know have looked at the video, some haven't quite watched that yet. Just a little bit of advice. This is a bigger piece of homework. It will take you the 4.5 hours that you allocated to do homework on top of this 1.5 hour lesson as well. So make sure you've started it, please. You can decide whether you're working alone or in pairs or in threes. Just let us know. That'll be on the checklist for today's lesson. And this is going to require you to present yourself really well. So setting up the slides I've given you beautifully. I've given you an example one, and lots of good solid research as well. So it is a bigger homework and it will take the full 4.5 hours for this one. Okay, so for today's lesson, we are going to be taking a lot of notes. I mean, a lot of notes. This is still topic A1, digital devices, and we've moved on from the bits and pieces we did last time into communication devices and systems. So I'm going to give you a list now of the areas that I'm going to be talking about, and this is the areas that you need to make notes on. So once I put these on screen, you might want to pause and write all these down. I also recommend that you are dual coding as you do this lesson, drawing yourself some diagrams. The lesson that I'm put through for you is quite a long video, but bear with it. It covers a lot of stuff that you need to know. I'll be drawing diagrams as I go through the lesson, so I'd hope that you draw some of your own as well. So these are the things that we're going to be covering in today's lesson. So we have ADSL, which stands for asymmetric digital subscriber line. We'll talk about that. Fiber to the cabinet, FTTC, talk about that a lot. FTTP, we talk about that a lot in the course. We already know these words, router and switch. We understand what they kind of are, not in detail, but we know those words. Network interface card, most of you will know that. Wi-Fi, everybody knows that. Wireless access point, we have those in college. If we were in college, I'd be able to show you them, but we're not. Local area network, we've covered that before, basics. We'll talk a little bit about that today. Wide area networks, we'll do a little bit of today. We'll introduce the idea of leased lines. We'll talk very slightly about satellite internet connections, mobile broadband, 4G, and moving into 5G. Bluetooth, we all know and love. Personal area networks we've talked about before, and we'll briefly touch on infrared as well. So you're going to make notes on all of those things. So let me just get that bar away. There we go. So you might want to pause your video now and make a note of what you're going to be making notes of. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is play the videos that I recorded earlier of me doing the diagrams for these. So get ready, your pen and paper, to make lots and lots of good notes. If after this presentation you want to ask anything, please get in contact with Chris or with me or with both of us, and we are always here to help you. All right, good luck with this lesson. Hi, so we're going to look at topic A1, communication devices. Now, normally I would do this on the massive board in the classroom, but obviously we're not there. So I'm going to do my best to introduce you to some of the key terms to do with communication devices and communication systems. You're going to need to take notes. You might want to reproduce this diagram if you can. If I can do it, it'd be a miracle. And let's see if we can get familiar with some of the terms that you need to know. So we're going to start over on this side. So over here we have the telephone exchange. And this is where we are going to say that the broadband signal that you use at home comes from. So we're going to start off at the telephone exchange, and there's different types of connection that we have into our homes. So the first one that we're going to look at is called ADSL. So ADSL stands for Asymmetric Digital Subscriber Line. You can always look that up. And this is where, from the telephone exchange, they have a copper cable running from the telephone exchange to a cabinet. And you see these green cabinets on the street. You've probably got one near where you live. So the copper cable comes from the exchange and goes into the cabinet. And then another copper cable comes from the cabinet into the home. So this type of connection, this broadband connection, is called ADSL. Not very common nowadays. Most people now have a faster connection. So as copper transmits data using electronic signals, which isn't fast. So let's look at the next type of connection that is more common now. So this time, in this scenario, instead of copper, we have fibre optic coming from the telephone exchange into the cabinet. And then from the cabinet on the street corner, we have copper. So fibre optic transmits data using light, which is obviously really, really fast. And then it slows down when it hits the copper. So this type of connection is called fibre to the cabinet, FTTC, fibre to the cabinet. That's this one. Okay. Then we have the next level up, and we've got from the telephone exchange again fibre optic. So we've got data travelling through light really fast to the cabinet, and this time to the home we have fibre optic again from the cabinet into the home, and this is called fibre to the premises or fibre to the property. Either is fine. So in this case, this is faster because we've got the data travelling through fibre optic here and straight into the home here. So you know from your investigations which you are. You might be ADSL, probably either FTTC, where you've got fibre to the cabinet and then copper coming in the home, and some of you will be fibre to the premises, FTTP. I'm lucky enough to have fibre to the property, which means I should have a fast internet speed. Okay, so then let's look inside the home. So here we have an example of a home network. So let's have a look at what devices, communication devices we have. Okay, so the fibre is coming into the home, and as you know from your investigation, the fibre comes into, or the copper comes into a router. And sometimes on that router you have a switch. Not always, but sometimes. So this is a home network. So the router will give off Wi-Fi signals. So my phone, my laptop, my Wi-Fi printer will be able to work in that home network. If I have got a switch, I might choose to connect some of my devices using wires, and the sort of wire, as we know, we would use is Ethernet cable, which is a copper cable. Okay, so now we've got the telephone exchange, we've got how the signal gets from the exchange into the homes, different methods, FTTC, FTTP. Inside the home, this is like your house, router, maybe a switch, Wi-Fi, maybe Ethernet cable for some of your devices. So we've got a bit of an idea. Then let's have a look at a local area network for a business. So this is like an office and maybe a workshop, so some sort of business here. And we're going to call it Cavell Enterprises. So based in jolly old Farnborough, we have Cavell Enterprises head office. So they're lucky enough to have fibre to the premises. So we've got fibre all the way to the business. So the first thing the fibre will hit is the router. And then because it's a business and they've got lots of devices, it's going to have a switch to direct all the information as it comes into the right places. So these things here are servers, and we're going to learn about those more in the next lesson. So this might be my, so if I say servers, so this might be my file server, this might be my print server, this might be my web server, I might have a mail server, but we've got servers and they are connected to the switch using Ethernet cable. So then I've got my devices, so I've got PCs and I've got maybe, I don't know, 25 computers which are all wired to the switch. So if you imagine our classroom back at Farnborough College, look around the classroom in your head, we've got wires, those grey wires coming at the back of your PCs, and they will go through the walls up into the switch in our building. The Ethernet cable connects to the motherboard. We know about that now, and it's connected to a special part of the motherboard, and it's called a network interface card, and that's just a part of the motherboard which you can connect an Ethernet cable to. So network interface card are installed on all our machines. They come automatically with the motherboard. So we have network interface card. You can just about see that on the video, I hope. Right, then we've got another wired device over here, and this is called a WAP. Do you know what a WAP is, I wonder? A WAP. So a WAP is a wireless access point. And again, you'll see them in the classrooms. When we go back to college, you'll be in Computing 4. And if you look up, there's like a spaceship looking thing on the ceiling, and that's our wireless access point. It has a cable which runs to the switch, and then it emits Wi-Fi. So we know it's going to be fast because it's got a cable coming from the switch into this device, and then the Wi-Fi is emitted out of the WAP, so we can connect our tablets and smartphones. So this has become my local area network for Cavell Enterprises. But Cavell Enterprises has got offices all over the world. This is the world. I didn't become an art teacher for a reason. So this is the world, and here is the head office at Farnborough, and then we have a LAN in Farnborough. Okay, but we've also got an office in Washington, somewhere in, I think that's meant to be Europe, so somewhere in Southern Europe, and somewhere in South Africa. And in each of those locations we've got a LAN similar to the one in Farnborough. But they're all Cavell Enterprise offices, so we want to be able to communicate. So we create something called a WAN, a wide area network. A WAN, here we are. So because this is all my business, well, it's actually Chris's business, Cavell Enterprises, we want to be able to communicate with all our bases around the world. So we create a wide area network between the LANs in those locations. And the type of communication we use is something called leased lines. Again, you can look up this term and Google it if you like, but leased lines are basically lines that a business will hire or lease from communications companies, and they enable high-speed communication between local area networks. Okay, so now we've got the idea of a telephone exchange with our fibre or copper delivering us our broadband. We've now got the idea that we can connect up local area networks in a wide area network using leased lines. So we're talking about all sorts of different communication types. I'm going to move us over this way a little bit. This will work. Here we go. Okay. So, some more devices and systems you need to know about. So up here, this represents mountains and a remote rural area, maybe in the Highlands of Scotland, maybe in the Shetland Islands, somewhere like that. So we're thinking about how people in the really remote areas of the world actually get broadband. So from here, I'm very bad at drawing, so I'll do what I can. This is up in space. This is terrible. This is a satellite. So satellites can enable, it looks like a sweet, but this is a satellite that can enable people in very remote rural areas to access the internet, and it's very slow, and we'll talk about this in topic B, but you can use satellite technology. One of the parts of your work was to look at Starlink, which is a set of satellites by Elon Musk. This might be something that Starlink is all about. So rural areas might need to get their communication via satellite. Okay, there's a couple more key terms for us to go through. So this amazing drawing over here is a mobile broadband. I've got pen all over me. Oops. I told you I shouldn't have been an art teacher. It's a good job I wasn't. So this is a mobile broadband antenna. You'll see them around, just emitting broadband connections. And here is a young person with their mobile phone accessing the internet via 4G. Oops, 4E, 4G. At the moment, 4G mobile broadband. And that is because we can communicate using these antennas, which is why if you go to, I don't know, like Cornwall, when we're allowed to again, you'll find that there are less sort of antennas around, and your mobile broadband will be harder to get a decent signal. But there are antennas which enable us to connect our mobile devices using mobile broadband. 4G at the moment, obviously 5G is coming on as well. Now this little fella, or lass, has a mobile device and some wireless earbuds, and what they've created for themselves here is not a LAN, it's not a WAN, it's I can hear you shouting it, personal area network, a PAN, and they're using Bluetooth connection to enable them to listen to this. So they're using a Bluetooth connection to create themselves a personal area network. Right, we've nearly covered all those key terms. I'm just going to shuffle back this way for one more expression that you need to know. Let's have a look over here. So, in one of our houses that we talked about earlier, here's a person watching the telly with their remote control. The remote control is rather large, I'll give you that, but it is what it is. So what kind of connectivity does a remote control use to control things like televisions or other devices? So it uses infrared technology. So it's not Bluetooth, it's not Wi-Fi, they're normally infrared devices. And infrared is line of sight. So if something stands in front of that remote control, the signal won't go through and change the television. I have that the whole time when the cat sits next to the telly and I can't change it using the remote control because the signal bounces back off the cat. So infrared. So the key terms that we've covered today are ADSL and the idea of copper networks, fibre to the cabinet, fibre optic to the cabinet, copper to the home, fibre to the premises, fibre optic to the cabinet and then into the premises. We've talked again about routers, we've talked again about cables and wireless connections in the home. We've looked at local area networks in a business, and we've talked about routers and switches. Should have a connection there. There we are. We've talked about wireless access points, which emit Wi-Fi for a business to create a local area network of wired and wireless connectivity. Then we talked about making this into a wide area network, connecting all our business locations, their LANs, using leased lines, which are fast connections that we can connect our business together. Then we talked about the use of satellites in rural areas to deliver broadband connectivity and the advances in that using things like Starlink. And then we talked about mobile broadband antennas around the countryside which deliver us our 4G to help us connect our mobile devices when we're out and about. And then finally we talked about Bluetooth, which enables us to create a personal area network of our devices. So those are the type of key terms that you need to know. And you'll be set some work based on that. But I hope that helps. All right, bye-bye.